Hi, everybody. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas, Texas on Saturday, March the 8th. And welcome to our commentary. It's actually getting a little chilly here. It's 48 degrees. I know you people up in the north think that we're whining, but it's dropped a lot today. I mean, it was like in the 70s yesterday, and now it's 48. But where we're going, I'm not sure if it's going to get colder, but we are supposed to have a lot of rain today. So maybe it's going to get colder. But you know what they say about Texas? If you don't like the weather, wait 20 minutes. And I think that's about where we are today, Saturday, March the 8th. Well, I've got a post over at the American Thinker today. Might want to check it out. It's about the Democrats and the internal struggles within the Democrat Party. I talked a little bit about this on Friday, but what is happening in the Democrat Party right now is an internal struggle between the people that we saw Tuesday night, these nutty people that we saw Tuesday night with their little placards, calling everybody names. Those folks who got all the publicity and all the attention, and in the name of the party, they became the face of the party for the American people or millions who were watching. And then you've got a bunch of others like John Fetterman, who is thinking a little bit about his own reelection in Pennsylvania and some of the others. And they're looking at all of this and they're saying, wait a minute, this is not good for us. So that's really going to be the struggle between these two sides. Is it going to be the people that we saw Tuesday night, or is it going to be the more centrist Democrats who want to win in the future? Who's going to win this battle? I'm not sure. Because one thing about the activists, they've got the money. But one thing about the centrist, they can appeal to more voters. Of course, a lot of that has to do with the overall performance of President Trump. If President Trump is a successful president, then, of course, that answers the question, and J.D. Vance will win in 2028. If he's not a successful presidency or has a successful presidency, then all bets are off. I mean, it's as simple as that. So much of what will happen in the future, we really don't know, because the balls are up in the air right now. The Democrats, can sit back and watch the Republicans perform. And honestly, that's what they should do. Instead of doing what they did Tuesday night, they ought to just sit back and watch the show and see where it goes, and opportunities may present themselves doing that. But right now, I mean, what we saw Tuesday night is not helping them one bit, not one bit, to say the least. And the problem the Democrats are having, I saw a little clip of former Senator Tester from Montana. He was on the Bill Maher show, and he was saying that all this cancel culture stuff is crap, and all this stuff about men playing in women's teams is crap. Well, I agree with him, but why didn't he say that during the campaign? It probably could have saved his seat up in Montana. He was one of those Democrats who could win in a red state. He was maybe the last one, and he couldn't do it because he didn't come out forcibly enough against these left-wing people who have apparently taken over the party. So we'll see how this goes. We'll see where this goes. And as I said a minute ago, a lot depends on what happens with the Trump presidency. I mean, how he does. If he's successful and can get some of these things done, then I think it's going to be tough for the Democrats. The reason that the Trump speech was so successful with the public, that is, and the polling data supports that. The reason that it's was so successful is because he came across as a strong leader. He came across as a man with a plan. And Americans like that. I think people in general want leaders who are strong and have a plan. They don't want, kind of weak or wishy-washy, or, unfortunately, in the case of Kamala Harris, a woman who couldn't even answer a question or wouldn't, explain to people why she wanted to be president. I don't think that works with the public. I think the public wants somebody who's strong. And that's how Trump came across on Tuesday night, as a strong leader. Also, what we saw Tuesday night was President Trump setting the trap. Each and every time he would set up the trap, and each and every time the Democrats jumped right in. They went right into the trap every single time. And, I think they came across silly, like not applauding for that 13-year-old boy who is a cancer survivor who now wants to be a policeman. I mean, that should have been, everybody should have been clapping that night. I guarantee you the whole country was clapping that night. The only people who were not clapping were the Democrats in that room. And isn't that silly? So that's really the reason for the success. And right now, you've got to say the advantage is Trump. And obviously, he's got to perform. I mean, no one's denying that. He's got to perform. And if he performs, I believe that the Republicans will do well in 26 and do well in 28 as well. One of the things that we have to remember, and we're a little bit premature on this, but looking ahead to 2030, the Republicans will have a bunch of new seats in 2030. And that's because when we do the census and we redistribute the seats as we do every 10 years, you're going to have about 10 to 12 districts leaving blue states and moving to red states. By that, I mean congressmen. Texas is supposed to pick up another 4 congressional districts in 2030. California is going to lose between 4 and 5. New York, around 2, maybe 3. Chicago, Illinois, 2. New Jersey, 1. Where are these seats going? They're going to Texas. They're going to Florida. They're going to South Carolina. They're going to red states. That's the problem that the Democrats face, that the blue states are losing population as more and more people are leaving blue states and moving to red states. And that changes completely the electoral map in 2032. I mean, just to give you an idea of what I mean, Donald Trump picked up 312 seats. If all of those seats that I mentioned, let's say 12 seats, move to red states, that means that those same states that he won now represent 324 electoral votes. So again, this is what the reality is that the Democrats are in. And unless the Democrats can persuade themselves, if that's possible, that they need to get back to the center, unless they do that, I think it's going to be very tough for them as a party to continue even being relevant on the national scene. I mean, they're always going to win districts, of course. They're going to win states. But I mean, it's going to become more and more difficult for them to win on a national basis. Well, I want to leave you today with a little memory, a very important memory. And this is about the evil empire. The evil empire is a phrase that President Reagan popularized first in 1982 and then in 1983. 1982, President Reagan was in London speaking to the British House of Commons, and he talked about the Soviet Union, and he called it the evil empire. Then he repeated that in 1983 before a conference of religious leaders in Washington, D.C., referring to the Soviet Union as the evil empire. And it kind of became really one of his most memorable lines. He had many, of course, in his presidency. Gorbachev, tear down this wall. That's one that we all remember. But this one about the evil empire became in many ways the definition of his presidency, or one of them. And he delivered that address. Now, so much has changed, of course, since that speech. Number one, there is no longer a Soviet Union. Now we call it Russia. Russian players are now playing in the National Hockey League, and instead of wearing the CCCP jerseys that they used to wear back then, now they wear the jerseys of NHL teams, whether it's the Canadiens, whether it's the Dallas Stars, whether it's the Chicago Blackhawks or Maple Leaf, Toronto, whatever. So obviously, a different situation than it is now. But you got to understand the world, the way the world was in 1982 and 1983 when President Reagan made those remarks. In 1982-83, the Soviet Union was in Afghanistan. They had invaded Afghanistan. You had some of their client states in Cuba sending troops to Africa. You had the situation in Central America. You had a Soviet Union that looked strong in 1982-83. And then, of course, the United States looking weak after the Carter administration. So all of that was happening at the time that President Reagan made those remarks. Now, in the end, President Reagan turned out to be right, and the evil empire collapsed in what was it, 1991, 1992, with the fall of the Soviet Union. But at that time, that word "evil empire" became, in many ways, attached to President Reagan. And at least in my view, it's one of the most memorable lines of his presidency, and one that I remember. Now, of course, with so much time passing by, and that's what my post coming out Sunday morning is about, with so much time passing by, you begin to wonder how many people have forgotten about the evils of communism. And that's what you're worried about, that, communists could come back to power by simply talking about social justice and equality. And people tend to forget what actually happens when you have a communist regime. There is no social justice, and there is no prosperity. So let's hope that people remember the evil empire, maybe not so much the evil empire because it doesn't exist anymore in the name of the Soviet Union, but the evil mannerisms of communism. That's still around. That's still around. And that's something that some of us remember, because some of us had personal experience with the evils, with the evil empire, or the evils of communism. Have a great weekend, everybody. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas, and we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye, everybody.